I'd been with the Park Service for around 5 years when my story takes place. Long enough to have seen some shit. Drunks, lost kids, black bears humping coolers open, meth heads who'd bought a week's access just to cook in the park. After a while, a lot of it will start to blur together. You learn the roads, the regulars, the shortcuts, and the GPS doesn't even know. You learn where the radio cuts out and where the elk like to stand on the shoulder. I was not some weekend volunteer. I knew this place, and I considered myself an authority. I'm not a killjoy per se, but people need to be safe and held accountable, within reason. So when I say this next part shook me, I don't mean it gave me a good scare. I mean, I never filed a report, never even told my supervisor, never even mentioned it to my closest coworker. The only place I've ever talked about it was online, under a throwaway username. The call came in a little after 10. Noise complaint from one of the most isolated sites in the park. The dispatcher said the campers sounded terrified. I grabbed my jacket, logged the call, and headed out in the service Cherokee. The road was that usual mess, sharp turns, drop-offs, barely any line of sight. But the drive didn't ever bother me. What bothered me was how quiet it was outside. When I reached the campsite, I saw a bright fire burning strong, but no people, no laughter, no shouting. Just a fire in my headlights cutting through the clearing. I parked, stepped out, and called out to anybody. "Park Service! Anybody here?" Tense rustle. A few heads appeared, one framed by the outline of a rifle or a handgun. One of the guys had a shotgun angled halfway up until I held out my badge. "Thank God," a woman said. "We didn't know if anybody was going to show up." A man stepped forward and extended his hand. "Yeah, we're the ones who called." "What's going on?" I asked. They all looked unsure of who to talk first, and finally the guy holding the shotgun cleared his throat. "We heard something after dinner around 8. Thought it was animals, so we shined our lights out there." He gestured toward the dark brush. "And we saw people, a lot of them." A teenager then added, "Walking and crawling, and some of them came right up to the tents." "They didn't react to us at all," the woman added. "Didn't look angry, didn't look scared, just kind of robotic, almost like they were on drugs." "And you armed yourselves?" I asked them. "We didn't know what else to do," the man said. "Like the kid just said, they came right up to the tents." I looked out toward the trees. "Okay, well, which way did they go?" They all pointed to the back of the site, toward this narrow cut in the woods that sloped into a ravine. One of the older campers stepped forward with a nut brown rifle. "I'll go with you. I'll keep it pointed down." Normally, I'd refuse any kind of backup, especially from a stranger who was armed, but heading into the woods after a crowd of unknown people wasn't exactly something I wanted to do alone. I nodded back at him. The guy was older, mature, steady eyes. "All right then, stay behind me and try to keep quiet." We slowly then moved into the trees. The firelight behind us then faded into a heartbeat. The signs were immediate though: broken branches, disturbed brush, depressions in the dirt where many feet had definitely passed. Whoever these people were, they hadn't been wandering. They were moving with direction, purpose. We kept our flashlights low and clicked them off to stay hidden. Ever so often, we'd hear a shuffle or a scrape out there in the dark, but the sounds were really impossible to track. "You get any kind of look at what they were wearing?" I asked him quietly. "No, not really," the man responded back. "Just shapes." We reached the edge of the ravine, a deep cut filled with rocks, dead trees, and old storm debris. We started down it under the glow of the moon. That drop was steep, the footing was loose, and the moon gave us just enough light to make out shapes of boulders and a few ledges. Neither of us spoke. The deeper we went, the more boxed in it kind of felt. I was expecting to drop onto a ledge and have somebody jump out at any second. Eventually, the ravine leveled to this series of wide stone steps. We stopped on the top one, and below us, movement was flickering between the trees. "You see that?" the man whispered to me. I did. Several figures were moving around in the brush. It was hard to tell how many, but it did look like a lot. "I'm gonna look," he said, lifting his rifle using the scope. The moment he focused, his whole body stiffened. "What is it?" I asked him. He lowered that rifle slowly. I think you should look too. I took out my belt binoculars and raised them. It only took a second for the shapes to sharpen in front of me, and when they did, I realized that we were looking at dozens of people, men and women, all dirty, thin, scattered around the bottom of the ravine. Some were standing, some were crawling. None of them spoke. And then, without any warning, every one of them lifted up their heads and looked straight up at us. Perfectly still, no sound, no gestures. I lowered my binoculars, and the man beside me shook his head. He was shock white. We're going back, I said to him. We turned and climbed as fast as the rocks would allow us to. A few loose stones tumbled behind us, giving us away if anybody was listening. When we reached that camp again, his family was standing outside their tents, waiting to hear the verdict. He didn't bother sugarcoating it at all. We're leaving right now, guys. And they didn't question him. Within minutes, they had the tents broken down and the truck loaded up. Before they left, he told me one last thing. Whatever's happening out here is fucking sick, man. I didn't disagree, but I didn't have anything to add. I told them to be safe and suggested a few safe, well-used campsites in the area. I told them that I'd doused their fire too, and they drove off, the darkness settling once their taillights were out of sight. I stayed by the coal bed for a while just listening, telling myself that I'd make a report once I got something concrete. But the woods never gave me a moment of peace. Every few minutes, I caught some small sounds around me. Brush moving, a faint pitter-patter of steps, something slipping between the trees. I think it was around 2 in the morning that I finally saw them. Figures running throughout the forest, fast and reckless, cutting through the bramble without any issues. Not toward me or even toward the road, just moving throughout the wilderness like a pack of animals. That was the moment I knew there was nothing I could put on a piece of paper that wouldn't make me sound completely insane. So I never reported it. I didn't stay too much longer after those figures moved. I put the fire out, did a quick walk of the immediate area, then headed back toward the station. I made a plan to come back during the daylight, check the ravine properly, and get a better look around. Maybe find a shoe or clothing or something that would lead me to some kind of identification. But the next morning, I couldn't even make myself drive back out there. I mean it when I say fuck that place. And the honest truth, I avoided that part of the park for a long time after that. Not officially, I still had to patrol it when I had to, but I stuck to the main road and kept my visits nice and short. I'd log the checks, do the basics, and just get the hell out of there. Every time I parked the truck, I kept one hand on my pistol. A year or two passed and things continued to get stranger out that way. A couple of hikers reported seeing groups of people moving through the lower canyon. One man said he heard somebody crawling in the brush right behind him, and when he turned, he didn't see anything. No amount of searching ever really turned anything up either. Sometimes dispatch would mention some odd calls, distant shouting, whistling in the camps, or people marching along trails at midnight. The reports came in once and then would disappear. Nothing that we could track. It was really a tough pill to swallow. For the others anyway, I guess. I had my own experience that I never even shared with the team, so I know better than anybody how hopeless the investigation truly was. I may have even done my part to steer it away from that same canyon. I'd been a ranger for around 3 years when I came across that campsite. By then, the job felt second nature to me, checking backsites, noting fire hazards, counting days people stayed, picking up trash where people had left it. Most of the days were the same loop in that same old truck. That morning in particular wasn't anything special. Clear sky, great temperature, quiet, spring green woodland. I was running a survey route throughout this stretch of backcountry that we kept an eye on for illegal camps. People like to sneak out there, mostly to avoid paying fees or dealing with other campers. A lot of them would target shoot and just leave all kinds of garbage. I rounded a bend and noticed a splash of color throughout the pines. At first, it looked like a tarp, Nothing too unusual, but as I got a little closer, more shapes came into my view. A tent, clothing, some kind of chair tipped over. Everything was scattered around like the occupants had been chased out. I stopped a short distance away and watched for any kind of movement. Camps usually give themselves away. Voices, smoke, even the sound of somebody in the nylon of their sleeping bag. But this place was corpse still. No vehicle, no fire, no people. I called it into dispatch as abandoned and waited for acknowledgement, then stepped out of my truck. The tent flap was hanging open. The inside looked empty from where I stood. The rest of the site was just completely trashed. Lots of it, literal garbage. The place didn't look old, but it also didn't look lived in either. Something about it just gave me the creeps. I started this slow circle around the site the way that we're trained to. Get the broad layout first, then move inward. From a distance, it looked like a long-term setup. Up close, it felt scattered and careless. Clothes, bags, coolers, loose items were spread out in every direction. This small stroller lay on its side near a log. Next to it were baby clothes, onesies, socks, a blanket crumpled up in the dirt. Formula containers were laying open, powder clump from moisture. Used and unused diapers were all mixed together. Seeing all that in the middle of nowhere just made me uneasy. Further out were some more women's clothes, books, folders with papers scattered all over, and some men's items, razor, deodorant, a wallet with no ID. Some of the things looked new, others worn in. It gave me the impression that whoever had been out here had brought all this stuff on more than one trip. Likely they dumped it in one pile at a time. I took photos from a couple of different angles. Once I had enough, I started grouping items so nothing got lost or trampled. While I was doing that, I found the first sign of blood. A child-sized jacket with dark stains across the front. A few feet away, a woman's shirt had similar marks on it as well. I didn't jump to conclusion, but it did raise the stakes. The axe would come next, buried blade first inside a log. Very ominous. I documented it and moved on. I kept glancing around. The area remained quiet, but it felt like somebody had been there recently. The forest just gets that stillness when people are around, and that's how it felt, like somebody was lurking about just out of sight. I crouched to photograph the stroller, and when I stood again, movement caught my eye near the tree line, around 30 yards away. A man stood among the trunks, partly in shadow. He wasn't hiding, but he wasn't coming forward either. Big frame, still posture. "Hey!" I called out. "Is this your camp, sir?" No answer. Instead, he lifted something that reflected a bit of light. A shotgun. The sight of it slowed everything down in my head. I dropped behind my truck and pulled my sidearm, kept my head down, checked the cylinder. 3 snake shot rounds and 3 standard. Not ideal, but it's what I had. The man then called out for me. "Pack up. There's nothing here for you." I stayed behind the truck. "Can't do that," I said back. "There's blood all over this clothing. I need to know what's going on. Where's the kid? Looks like woman's clothes too. Is there a woman out here?" "They're fine. Baby's safe. Now get in your truck and go." His tone never wavered, but nothing he said really matched the scene. If everything was fine, this place definitely wouldn't look like it did. "All right, I'll leave, but I'm gonna need you to lower that gun first." There was a long pause. He angled the shotgun downward, barrel toward the dirt. He didn't drop it or sling it, just put it nose down. I watched this over the lip of the hood of my truck. I stayed low and slid along the side of my truck and opened up the passenger door. I climbed in and crossed over to the driver's seat. My hand shook a little when I put the key in the ignition, but I kept moving. Seeing my revolver on the dash, I shifted in reverse, turned around, and blasted out of that campsite. I wasn't out here to get in a gun battle. I didn't even know if that guy was all alone. I kept in my rear view as long as I could. He didn't chase, just kind of watched from the trees until the road curved and I lost sight of him. Once I reached the main service road, I radioed it in. Abandoned camp with signs of possible injury, armed subject on scene, threatening a ranger. I relayed the details plainly, and my supervisor told me to return to the office and file a full report. Back at headquarters, everybody took it very seriously. My report was forwarded to the state police and the sheriff's office. Within an hour, there was a plan to return first thing in the morning with a combined team. They wanted me along since I knew the exact location. I tried to get some sleep that night, but my mind kept wandering back to that stroller, the blood, the man saying the baby was safe. The woods have seen plenty of strange behavior over the years, but that camp felt different. I did not have any desire to return out to that scene. The next morning we met early. My supervisor, 2 other rangers, 4 deputies, and 3 state troopers. No excitement, no small talk. We just wanted to know what we were walking into, so we wanted to make sure that we had our bases covered. A couple of the guys had a few M4s. My supervisor brought a pair of 12 gauges for us. It was almost like we were storming some kind of compound. That drive-in was nice and quiet, forest looking the same. Nothing in those trees gave a hint of what we were about to find. The campsite looked unchanged from yesterday. Everything I'd photographed and sorted was still where I left it. Deputies spread out, logging each item, taking their own photos now. Nobody commented on the blood at first, just kind of worked through it. A deputy found a faint path leading east, like somebody had walked that same track again over and over. It was the same direction the guy appeared from yesterday too. We moved in single file, checking the brush on both sides. I'd say 500 yards in, we came into this small clearing with a rough setup, tarp, blankets, some cans. It didn't look like anybody living there had been doing well. One of the troopers raised his hand toward the rock shelf. There, he pointed. A narrow cave sat underneath a ledge, not more than a crack, but big enough for somebody to crawl into. Deputies called out for whoever was inside to come out. For a moment, nothing happened. 2 of the state troopers scrambled up onto the ledge, rifles in tow, and hollered when they got to the top. They said that there was somebody holed up inside, hiding in the back of the crag. They pointed their rifles into the rock slot and started barking orders. The man from yesterday then crawled out, squinting in the light. It was filthy. Seeing him up close explained a lot. He was malnourished, clothes stiff with dirt, hair tangled, eyes unfocused. He didn't resist when they cuffed him either, just muttered something under his breath. The shotgun was still inside the cave, leaning up on a rock. When a pair of deputies questioned him, the rest of us searched the area. A trooper flagged us over to the far side of that little camp. He didn't raise his voice, just said that we should come take a look. A shallow burial was tucked away at the base of a fallen tree. The disturbed dirt stood out once you knew where to look. Clearing that top layer revealed a woman wrapped in a blanket. She'd been there for a while. Nobody really reacted. The reality of it all was washing over us. This was really bad. The deputies then went back to the man with more direct questions. Who was she? Why is she dead? How long she'd been there? We needed to find out what the hell happened exactly out here. He said that she was his wife. He kept repeating that things got out of hand, though he never explained what that really meant. His answers would drift, sometimes circling back to other information, sometimes stopping mid-thought. Every time they asked about the baby gear scattered at the first camp, he insisted that the child was quote-unquote with family. He wouldn't give a name, wouldn't say where, wouldn't clarify why they left so many belongings behind. Nothing he said made any fucking sense. He was taken from the site in a patrol vehicle. Troopers marked off the second camp, and investigators from the sheriff's office stayed behind to process the grave. The rest of us walked out the way we came in, forest looking exactly the same. But the place now felt dangerous after learning what was deep within those trees. Back at the office, the report got a lot of attention. The man was booked on homicide charges, but we didn't have a way to process him. Searches were done for any sign of a child matching the description, but nothing surfaced. No missing person reports linked up, no relatives came forward. This guy was a ghost. We never truly learned what happened out there. Law enforcement took over the case pretty much immediately, and we just kind of assisted with stuff that they needed on the sidelines. And that's my own personal Wild Ranger story. I actually got called in early that afternoon. A couple of coworkers were tied up on a medical call, so Trevor and I were told to cover the north side until things got leveled out. We barely made it out of the station lot when dispatch came over the radio with something that caught our attention immediately.
Reckless vehicle on Forest Road 98. High speed, multiple near misses with visitors. Black sedan, occupants described as juveniles.
And that was that. The main corridor was clogged off with weekend traffic, people walking dogs, kids on scooters, trucks pulling trailers, everything you don't want in the path of a speeding car. As soon as we turned off the pavement though, the noise dropped away, and it felt like we stepped into a different place altogether. A long trail of dust then stretched between the trees. It wasn't drifting or settling. Someone had just blown through here seconds before we did. Trevor didn't comment, neither did I, we just followed it. Those roads twist and dip in ways that make you slow down whether you want to or not. You've got a lot of tight corners, soft shoulders, and cams tucked into the timber every few hundred yards. Anyone tearing through here at a high speed is either clueless or doesn't care who they hit. The engine noise reached us long before the car actually did, a whining sound that carried through the trees. I was reaching for the mic when it suddenly appeared, shooting out from a side spur and fishtailing in front of us to get back out on the road. And there it was, black sedan, windows down, packed with kids, teenagers, from quick faces that I caught. I lifted a hand for them to stop and they didn't even pretend to consider it. The driver locked eyes with me for maybe half a second, then stomped on the gas. They blew past the front of our Tacoma. The passengers leaned out of the window, flipping us off, all teeth and wild energy, just like they won a race or something. That little asshole kid was about to learn today. I didn't waste time reacting, punched the gas and got the truck up to 60, keeping pace with the sedan. The dust rolled over us so thick it swallowed the road and all the trees at the same time. I remember thinking one thing, and it wasn't complicated. These kids are gonna kill somebody if we don't shut this down right now. We didn't have to search for the car. You could hear it no matter where you stood. An engine being pushed way past what the driver could actually handle. We didn't have to follow anything visual, just the sound of that cranked engine and the dirt getting thrown around. I kept us at a pace that let us see, but it didn't really matter. They were doing triple whatever was safe out here, and you could feel how dangerous this situation was becoming. Visitors were stepping out of their campsites, pointing toward the noise and shaking their heads. A couple yelled at us as we passed, wanting to know what the hell was going on. We rounded a bend and then caught sight of the sedan for the first time since they'd blown by us. It shot across an intersection ahead of us, all four shocks bottoming out. A family stood frozen on the opposite side, a dad holding a toddler, mom pushing a stroller, completely stunned that a car just torn through a blind crossing like it was a racetrack. I got on the radio. Dispatch, we need deputies headed toward the 19 split. Car is escalating. No signs they're gonna stop.
Copy,
Dispatch answered.
I'll try to get a unit rolling.
We kept after the trail of dust that they left behind, but they weren't running from us. They were just looping, switching roads at random, sometimes doubling back, like they were trying to stay inside the most populated area on purpose. Trevor watched the tree line as we drove. "You noticing that?" he asked me. "Yeah," I said back. "They want eyes on them. You can tell it's a game to them. This is a big show." The forest swallowed up the engine noise for a brief moment, which meant they'd cut speed or hit one of the deeper spur roads that dipped off into a canyon. But when the sound came back, it was sudden, loud, and closing from behind. I checked the mirror. "They're coming up on us," I said. "How the hell did they do that?" I pulled to the right to give them some space, assuming they'd blow past, and they did. And then they swung around, caught the ditch, and then came barreling straight at us once again. I jerked the wheel and barely avoided a head-on collision. They missed us by maybe a foot, and Trevor hit the dash with his hand. "Dude, this is fucking crazy. They're literally trying to hit us now. I'd shoot their tires if there weren't so many damn people around." I hit the radio again. "Attempted ramming. We need deputies now. See about a spike strip or something." But we couldn't wait. If the driver tried that stunt on a family crossing the road, somebody would die. There was one place ahead where the road tightened up a bit, between two huge pines, a natural choke point, no room to drift, no room to dodge. You either slow down or you crash. "Block them," I said. "I can block them here." "Do it," Trevor responded back. I swung the Tacoma sideways across that road, bumper nearly touching one of the trees, tailgate close to the other. It wasn't perfect, but it would force a slowdown. Then we both stepped out, moved behind the trees on opposite sides, and stayed hidden as best we could. We didn't draw our pistols, just wanted to be ready to pounce if they stopped the car. The woods around us went still again, no voices, no engines, no nothing. Then the sound returned. They were now barreling straight for us. I saw the car before I heard Trevor's warning. It came around the corner with no intention of stopping. The driver tapped the brakes once, but it was too late. Then they lost complete control. The sedan fishtailed, overcorrected, and slid sideways. It smashed directly into the right side berm. Front end shot upward and hung there for a second, then slammed down at this weird, crazy angle. The undercarriage dug into the dirt mound, and the car locked itself in place, wheels spinning uselessly. It was high-centered and stuck for good. Before the dust even settled, the doors then burst open. All at once, 5 kids, maybe 6, hit the ground running. None of them spoke, none of them shouted to each other. They didn't even look back at the wreck. They split in every direction like they'd been waiting for this chance. Trevor yelled at them to stop, already moving. He managed to grab one, small, dark-haired, quick but not quick enough. She twisted in his grip but didn't fight, didn't scream, didn't even say a word. The others then tore down the tree line, and I picked the closest and sprinted after him, but it was useless. That kid slipped through the brush and down the slope like a buck, and I lost him in seconds. By the time I made it back to the road, the forest was quiet again. No branches snapping, no voices, no other movement. Just that wrecked sedan idling crooked on the berm. And Trevor holding that girl who just was staring straight ahead. He glanced over at me over his shoulder. "They're gone," I said. "In more ways than one," Trevor agreed. And he wasn't talking about the distance. He meant it in a different way entirely. He gestured to the girl's eyes like she was high or something. We sat the girl down on a flat patch of ground away from the wreck. She wasn't shaking or crying. She wasn't even out of breath. She kept her eyes on the tree line, like she was expecting the others to come back for her or something. I crouched down a few feet away. "You hurt?" She shook her head once. "Who's driving the car?" I asked. Another small shake of her head. Trevor tried something now. "Look, we're not trying to charge you. We just need to know who else was with you." No response. I radioed in her estimate age and description, asked dispatch to run any recent missing juveniles, runaways, anything out of the city. No hits or matches. When she finally talked, it was incredibly soft-spoken. "We just wanted to have fun." "That's what you call this?" Trevor asked. "Fun?" She didn't respond, just kept staring at the trees. I tried again. "Where'd the car come from?" "We took it," she said. "Stole it yesterday." "From the city?" She nodded. "And you drove all the way out here to what, tear up the place, run from something?" She just shrugged. "We were bored." Kids joyriding, I guess, isn't new. Kids stealing cars isn't new. But there was something about just the way she said all of this. I've never seen a person act so empty. Deputies arrived within 20 minutes and they took the girl, logged the wreck, and did a brief sweep of the immediate area, but those other kids were gone, vanished in the wilderness. The deputy sergeant asked us if we thought they might circle back. Neither of us thought so, because why would they? Once they hauled that sedan out, the whole thing was pretty anticlimactic. What had felt like a war zone to Trevor and I looked pretty basic now to everybody else. The car was processed, property damage reports were filed for all those camps they blasted through, and we wrote up our personal statements, and I guess that was supposed to be that. But it didn't end there. Over the next few months, we started getting strange comments from some of the visitors. Nothing solid enough to act on, just little bits here and there. A couple of backpackers swore they saw a group of teenagers running barefoot along the ridgeline at dawn, just off the trail. A fisherman reported hearing kids laughing deep inside this drainage where there was no established campsites. He said he even saw a firelight way down at the bottom. Another family claimed somebody stole food from their cooler late at night without disturbing anything else. No prints, no drag marks, no trash left behind. but all of their food was missing. Nothing matched perfectly, but every report pointed to the same corner of that forest, the same directions all those kids had vanished on that same day. Nothing violent, nothing dramatic, just strange. Every time I worked that part of the network, I found myself slowing down in that exact same area where they scattered off in. Not because I was scared, just because there was something about that place that never sat right with me again. What the hell brought them all the way out here to the edge of the world? Trevor agreed and felt it too. He didn't say it outright, but he avoided those long spurs, took the main roads whenever he could. One evening months later, I was closing the gate at the far end of the district when I thought I saw somebody up on the ridge, a thin silhouette standing between two dead snags, human-shaped, just kind of watching. I blinked and they were gone. Maybe it was nothing, maybe it was just my eyes, maybe it was a shadow, whatever, but that feeling that came with it was the same one that I'd had when those kids exploded from that car, without a single look back. An edge of something that I couldn't name, too far organized for a simple joyride. I still patrol that area, still do my job, but I don't like stopping there, not unless I have to. There's a stretch of road where the trees close in tight, and every single time I pass it, I remember how quickly all those kids disappeared. So now I guess they belong to the woods.